What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, and the movie I want to take a look at right now is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Now, this one comes from Netflix. It is directed by Charlie Kaufman, and full of misgivings, a young woman travels with her new boyfriend to his parents' secluded farm. Upon arriving, she comes to question everything she thought she knew about him and herself. It runs at 2 hours and 14 minutes, and that plot synopsis that IMDb has on their page is about as accurate as you're going to get, because there's a lot going on in this movie. It's super hard to describe, and I'm even going to struggle doing this review, but like with that actual plot description, that is the best way to describe it if you want to lure people in and get them interested in this film, because it goes into some weird, dark places, but it is definitely a journey for sure. Whether you think it's a good journey or a bad journey, that's kind of up to you. So going into this, I was super excited. I love Charlie Kaufman movies, whether you think about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Being John Malkovich, Schenectady, New York, Elisa. The guy just always has a unique vision for his films, whether he's just the screenwriter or the director or both. There is always that Kaufman touch. You know exactly what type of movie you're going to get into. He plays a lot with fantasy and kind of surreal environments and imagery, but having these kind of like, characters that are grounded and have this real emotional weight to it, that if anyone watches his movies, they can pull from those characters and really relate to them, even though it's set in these kind of weird, dreamlike settings. They're always really fleshed out and really just great characters to follow. So this one, I saw a trailer for it, and that was it. I wanted it immediately. Cool thing with Netflix is that they'll drop a trailer like a week or two before the movie drops or the TV show drops, so you don't have to wait too long. But I was like, just give it to me now. I want to watch this movie. And I'm excited to see Jesse Plemons in kind of like a co-lead role. And I've heard great things from Jessie Buckley. I've seen her in some small things, but this is my first kind of like full experience of her as in a lead role. And I can't hide it anymore. I love this movie. This is one of my favorites of the year. If it's not my favorite of the year, it might be knocked down a couple of pegs, but it's going to be top 5 by the end of this year for sure. God, I love this movie. It's very dark. You have to be in that correct emotional spot to watch this movie. It is dark. It is very emotional, especially when you get towards the very end. But it's also funny. There's also some kind of cynicism to it that Kaufman approaches that with comedy. And so it's kind of like that weird blend, but it is a very, very heavy movie, and you've got to be in the right mindset to watch it. But I think the journey that I took with these characters, it was so worth it, and it was emotionally resonant, that by the end of it, I wanted to watch it again immediately. And I know when I watch something, if I want to watch it again right off the bat, it is something special for sure. So, let's just go ahead and jump right into this. Let's start with Charlie Kaufman, who is arguably the star of all of his movies, even though he's not in them. He was kind of like a Tarantino or like a Scorsese or, David Lynch, Bong Joon-ho. Like they are the star of their films, and they're the ones behind the camera. So, first of all, I want to say that Kaufman takes this story in directions that you don't even know where it's going. And when it takes this kind of like hard right turn at a certain point in the story, you kind of sit there and you think, oh my God, he just pulled that off. Because the transition that he does from focusing on Jessie Buckley's character to possibly another character and switching past like that and having a different perspective on it, that's hard to do. And when you get to the end of the film and you start replaying scenes in your head of like when they're at the ice cream stand, or when they're driving on the road, when they're at Jesse Plemons' parents' house, you start to really think like, oh wow, that makes sense. Given the fact that this is how it ends, you replay those scenes, you're like, this was so well crafted. You had no idea that this is what they were saying, because they don't just directly tell you what's going on. It's a lot of visual metaphor. And so you replay it and you go, wow, this is what it actually meant. and there's meaning behind it. Like, it's just crazy to me that they were able to misdirect like that, and I thought it was actually really well handled. I never read the book, so I have no idea how the book progresses, but the way the movie is kind of laid out, it's such a great journey to follow. It's a very depressing journey to follow, but a great one nonetheless. So Kaufman takes these turns for the better, in my opinion, and it just makes it for a more exhilarating type of experience. Second thing is the kind of visual kind of translation that he has on this film. I kind of noticed that it reminded me of like a Tim Burton film. There was a lot of, dreamlike kind of sets, a lot of saturated colors. It doesn't feel like it's a part of this world, but at the same time it kind of does. So it's kind of playing both sides of that coin. But I just always thought that each scene was packed with so much visual noise in such a great way that it made for the kind of dreamlike, fantasy, surreal experience that Kaufman wants to go for. And so I really enjoyed the kind of visual flares and touches of this film, utilizing, I think, sets that they all built, really kind of making sure there's intricate detail in every single thing that's in every single scene, and it just it makes a world of difference, because like I said, it feels like a Burton film. It feels like a lair in hell that Beetlejuice went to. That's what this film kind of looks like. But yeah, I just love the kind of visual direction that Kaufman took on this, because it does feel like a dream. Nothing really feels like it's happening in real life, but it feels like memories. It feels like certain things that someone would remember, and we're just seeing it kind of pieced together out in front of us. So almost like as if someone's dying and we're seeing like their final moments of their life, and like just the life flashing before the eyes type of scenario. Let's jump into the characters in the story. So with Jessie Buckley, we kind of start out with her saying that she's thinking of ending things, and it seems like their relationship's really not gonna work. And so she agrees to go on this trip with Jesse Plemons and to see like his family and stuff, but she's just really not happy. And there is this kind of coldness that Buckley has to her character. It's intentional, but there is a coldness. We don't really like her right off the bat, and so when we're having these deep conversations with her and Plemons in the car, because there's a lot of elongated scenes of them just driving, I thought those conversations were intriguing, because I wanted to know more about the relationship. I wanted to know more of what she was feeling and what she was thinking, and the same with Plemons and like what he was feeling and thinking, and why does this relationship work? You're always baffled, because yeah, it seemed like there was a lustful attraction in the beginning, but it seems like it died off pretty quickly. So why are these two people together? And it's through just wonderful dialogue and just like, just the amount of like tight editing that this movie has, like you're always just fascinated by what's going on. And it's not just the dialogue and the characters that you're so intrigued with and you want to know more about, but it's also, like I said, the visual metaphors that Kaufman is surrounding like a bubble on these characters that have you thinking like, what does this mean? Without spoiling anything, I'm going to give two examples. One, when they're driving in the car and they're talking with each other back and forth, they're driving in a snowstorm. It's dark outside. You can't even see the road. It looks like they're driving to nowhere. And that's kind of a theme that Kaufman is playing with, which is loneliness and not really fulfilling your life's potential and feel like your life is in a rut and it's not going anywhere. But they're having this conversation, but it's happening outside of them. So you don't even think about that. Another scene, they go to an ice cream shop. I'm not going to say anything more beyond this, but the ice cream shop represents someone's mind. And there's a left side and there's a right side. And it's little things like that get me going as a movie watcher and, potential filmmaker. I see that stuff and I'm like, this scene's really, really fascinating, because like Plemons is like back here near the car and she's up there near the ice cream shop and she's talking with the people getting their order. So much going on underneath. I'm telling you, when you see this, it will blow your mind on just all this stuff crammed in here, and I think it's all justified, but everything that's just crammed in there, that always it just means something. So there's no fluff in this. It's just it's all meant for purpose. But yeah, I really liked their relationship and just watching them kind of interact with each other. And when you get to the end of the movie, you will have a tear in your eye. That's all I will say. I definitely cried. That is for sure. Some of the other characters that are in this, Toni Collette, David Thewlis, they are the mother and father of Jesse Plemons. And when they get to the farm, this is when all the weird stuff starts happening. But Kaufman also plays with themes and elements of time and how time can be lost, and how time is just super quick in one's life. And if you don't utilize it to the best of your ability, life can just slip through your fingers and you're old before you know it, type of deal. So utilizes time and just the passage of time, and the performances of Toni Collette and David Thewlis in the short amount of time that they're there is outstanding. The makeup is outstanding because they age jump, and within these specific scenes, it's just crazy to me that they were just so committed in their roles. You didn't see them as the actor and actress. You saw them as their characters. But Collette and Thewlis they've always been great, so that's nothing for them. But speaking of the performances, Buckley and Plemons, wonderful. Like, they fit that kind of the mold that Kaufman has for these characters, where they feel they're kind of cynics, but they're also, slightly lovely. They're sarcastic, but they bring such a liveliness to their characters that just makes them fully realized. And Kaufman's very specific on who he cast, and it was supposed to be Brie Larson in Buckley's role, but I think Buckley did a fantastic job in this role, just really not knowing what's going on. She's just kind of like discovering this all at the first time that we're discovering it, and just the amount of kind of subtlety in her acting is really outstanding. And then Plemons is always great. I liked the switches that he made with his character. They make sense, but everyone does a lot of switching within their characters within specific scenes, and they change it up so quickly that you just you don't mind it because it's just really flawless in their performance. Whew, this is a lot to talk about. What else was I supposed to say? I was supposed to bring up something else, but like I mentioned earlier, the cinematography is wonderful. It has this kind of symmetrical look to it, and it's just flawless camera work to reveal stuff or to hide certain things. Placing cameras in certain frames of the camera, it all makes sense for the purpose that Kaufman is going for. The color scheme is great. It feels, like I said, Burton and dreamlike. The editing is fantastic. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes. It flies by. And the thing is, like, the first 20 minutes of this movie is just them talking in a car. But you're so riveted, like, what's going on, because she's also speaking in her mind at the same time that they're speaking to each other. And there's so much going on, and it could become jarbled noise to some people. But it's just edited with such a lightness and freshness. Like, it's just always moving. And even when they get to the farm and they leave the farm, it's always going. But towards the end, it starts to slow down a bit, really letting the audience know this is what the movie's about. This is what this character is thinking. This is what this character is going through. Is there a possibility that we're at the end of his life right now, or the end of her life? I don't know, but it really starts to slow down, and that's when you really start to soak everything in. And then by the time the last image happens and it hits the credits, I think it's a pretty emotional ride for sure. Really, like I said, dealing with themes of loneliness and having one's life slip away through their fingers. So I don't know what else to say. It is a complex movie. I definitely want to watch it again. But I hope I did the movie justice in describing it to you guys and like what I thought about it. There's no secret. I'm going to give this movie an A. I don't think it's that A+ level yet. I only reserve those for when I really feel it in my gut. It could get close. After a rewatch, it could be up to that plus mark, but I think a solid A for me, for I'm Thinking of Ending Things, it's just really great, guys. If you're into Kaufman movies, watch it. If you're not, I'd still say give it a watch. You might hate it, and you might blast me down below, but that's totally okay. I'm okay with differing opinions. And speaking of differing opinions, if you would like to tell me what you thought of I'm Thinking of Things, please comment down below. Even though I don't reply to all of them, I will read all of them. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get updates on when I review anything. If you're more of a podcast person and you want these in podcast form, you can do just that. Subscribe to the Real Man Movie podcast feed on Anchor, Spotify, Castbox. I am everywhere. And then, that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.